All right, hey everybody, Jared Napolitano, JNAP here. We have got a fun afternoon going on. We're about to start game number 11 of the Outrider Cup versus Paul Myers and Bastian Winkelhaus. The game is posted. Go ahead, Paul and Bastian. So they're going to start. Right now we have another game going on between Justin Desai and Miguel Taryn Vegas for game 10 of the Outrider Cup. So that's going to wrap up soon. I currently have game 11 here at the header, you can see, but I only have 9 in the standings, so we'll update that as we get this finalized. But we have a great matchup here, three-time world champion and Hall of Famer Bastian Winkelhaus versus Paul Myers, who has had a lot of success recently. He was the number 1 overall seed in the 2020 and 2021 OCS. He was the runner-up last year. Losing to Justin Desai, and just a really, really strong player as well. And we have this matchup, which is this deal is getting worse all the time, that Paul is very familiar with. Perhaps famously kind of ported over from the old Imperial Entanglements, which since has gotten a few, or several errata, I should say. Really a few, but it really changed the power level and make this option a little bit better. So Paul starts Aerotech Corporation V, which helps with the speeder, with the ATSDs, and also I think speeder bike pilots as well. Yeah. No, it just helps the power forfeit. But and Bastian, of course, is playing Legend, which recently received a new card with Be With Me, which is a great image. Really makes Rey a lot stronger. Makes her Jedi Rey, to be able to be played before flipping the objective, which was kind of an awkward thing before, where the flip side, you couldn't deploy Jedi until after you flip. Or you can only have one on the table at a time, I guess is what the rule technically was, or as it was written on the objective. But yeah, so Legend's stronger now. He also starts a Brave Resistance and Jakku, which is not appearing. Maybe it's an AI from Bastion. Might be a reason we switched the old interface just to make sure, but maybe I'll just type in here. So I don't even know why it's a dark side card, but just to be clear. And so Paul's going to pull the Coruscant Docking Bay. The card face down is light side Jakku. Or at least I'm 90% sure. I guess it could technically... Well, he wouldn't play a Brave Resistance. Or a Brave Resistance doesn't work unless Jakku's on table, so it really has to be. So Bastion's played Legend a good amount too. He's of course was the captain of the Team Europe. And was the captain back when the Outrider Cup happened a couple years ago in 2019. USA won that one. I'm not sure what the final was. I know they didn't play a match or two. It was a very different format. I'm not sure if it was like... I think USA got to 7 wins, and maybe it was like 7-4 or something like that. And then they just didn't play the last game, or maybe it was 7-3 even. Maybe they didn't play 2 matches. So hopefully, again, like I've been saying on some of these streams, hopefully I have some interesting perspective being on Team USA, just kind of hearing the planning and anticipation for this matchup from Paul's perspective. I know Desai tested a lot with him to try to figure out, because Desai played Legend. On our side is obviously very familiar with the deck. Him and Bastion have some different styles, so it's not going to be the exact same build, but they definitely tried a couple different angles. I know Bastion said at the original show, when they picked the matchups, that as we have this deal come out, or they must never again leave the city, which will allow the Executor to play for free. Bastion hasn't played the Shield yet, which was recently, here it comes, Goldenrod, which prevents Executor from being deployed for free on the first turn. It suspends it until the end of the... I wonder if that's just... I'm surprised this didn't, kind of get blurred or something. They must never again leave the city, suspended until opponent's first turn. That comes out, which is good for Paul. It's always a slight risk that, maybe Bastion pulls Jedi Luke and has an altar, especially the altar and friendly fire virtual card, which is pretty popular, given there's some pretty strong effects for dark side lately. Paul's going to put out Lieutenant Arnett and Tempest Scout 1. One second here. And Paul's going to draw a couple cards. Of course, Paul, infamously not the fastest player. very methodical is the phrase, is the word I use. But all the power to him. He uses the clock as much as he's allowed and able, and that's not against the rules. But sometimes when you're a player opposing him, you're kind of thinking, oh, okay, all right, here's my plan. I know me personally, sometimes I've been like, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and then kind of take a little longer than you expect, and you kind of forget like one of the things in your game plan. So I don't think that'll happen to Bastion as much. He's obviously a much stronger player than I am. So yeah, it's interesting, fun that we have this afternoon. We have our European friends able to join us, isn't at some crazy hour of the day. And obviously lots of Europeans, including ones on the team, like I see Ketwall in the chat, on the team. You guys will have to let me know. I don't have the other game up. It looked very favorable for Desai, but let me know when that finishes, and I'll update the header here, so we're dealing with real-time information. It is done. Update. Desai 1. Okay. So we have a 5-5 event. This is really good stuff then. As Bastion's going to put out the saddle. This started 4-1 Europe, with Darkside being 5-0 in their first 5 games, or the first 5 games of the event. And USA now has won 4 out of the last 5 to now bring this to 5-5. And so we'll have this game here, which will be important, which, like I said, it can go either way. I think Legend has the huge thing going for it on the flip side, where it caps immunity at less than 5. And a lot of this deal is dependent on keeping that executor out on the table. And when it goes from immunity of attrition less than 12 to 5, makes it a little more vulnerable. And of course, Legend can have a very strong space package. It can contest the system. You have to think, Paul's going to try to do everything he can to keep Bestman in his control so that he can have occupation going. So Desai went 2-0 his matches. I don't think anyone else has gone 2-0 yet. I know Kieran's 1-1. I was 1-1. Timo was 1-1. But yeah, it's an interesting format. Sometimes, the matchups were interesting. We always prepared, having the kind of the Highlander idea of there's only one type of each deck for each side. As Bastion pulls battle plan, not going to let Paul get a free drain of 1 at the docking bay here. I was going to update this. So let's see. So we have a tie. So this game is really important, but neither team is going to clinch the event after this game. No matter what happens, it'll come down to Joe versus Silver Glen, Joe Olsen versus Justin Branch, which will happen in about 4 hours from now. That's going to be Joe playing Communing versus Silver Glen playing ISB. Paul's going to play the Imperial Detention Shield, which will make sure that Leia's Resistance Transport, which is pretty common in Legend, make him pay the 2 force to download a female pilot or a female leader. I think it's just female pilot, or maybe it's just a female in general, aboard. So Paul's going to pull Occupation during his deploy phase here. Silver Glen he beat Hayes very narrowly. It was like, 3 or 4 cards. So Silver Glen's 1-0. Joe was 1-0 winning the game last night. Dan streamed that. I watched that this morning. I know Joe wasn't huge on that matchup. He didn't think Rops was great versus it, but again, not as much me, because I don't know as many of the matchups as well, but seeing that kind of hashed out amongst the team, worked on a game plan, executed the game plan, and it panned out. Game 11, tie. Paul's looking at his reserve deck, getting a look of what exactly is all in there. It might just be a visual thing, Timo. It says suspended with the right click, suspended from don't do that again. So Paul's not getting the activation bonus from mobilization points here. Anticipate this turn, Paul's probably going to put the executor out with Piet, with another pilot. He's got to make sure that he doesn't have too few or too little forfeit fodder. Chris Schoenthal can correct me if that's too little or too few forfeit on his ships there, just to make sure he doesn't get hit with like a Falcon, a spin, and just if he knocks Paul out of space, that this game takes a very, very different turn. Yeah, I know, Christian, I know you've been working or used to work with Eric Lanz, who developed this on a lot of the graphics and designs. See, I wonder to what extent that stuff can be tweaked, when it'll be tweaked, to kind of hash out some of the bugs. And this, of course, was, I think it was like February 1st was when this, last year, so coming up on a year of the new user interface, universal interface, I always get it mixed up. But I know a lot of newer players coming into the game really like it. I think it's definitely hard to get used to if you're very used to the old interface. And it takes a lot of processing power, and it doesn't work on mobile. So that's the biggest reason I don't use it. Was part of the beta testing team to try to work out some of the bugs way back last fall of 2020. But, to some extent, you're just used to the old thing, so the new is always going to feel weird as the executor docking bay comes out. But also, it is different, and some people might just like, the simpler, I shouldn't say simple, the more straightforward function. This has some more of the kind of cool stuff with like click and drag, and I think the graphics, it obviously looks cooler, and I think it's really good for spectating, as I've said, or streaming, especially because I like the piles are a lot larger, so you can see more easier how much life force is left. Out comes the executor. Yeah, so and with Piet for 2 force. Well, yeah, decision timeout in competitive games. I think for this, if you timeout, you lose. No matter the board state. It's not match play where you kind of have to calculate a differential, because it's important if it's in game 1. But just like kind of Jemp will say, whoever runs out of time loses. That I think I actually bumped it up when I set up the league, maybe to 6 minutes instead of 5, in case someone has to step away. I don't know if there's any obligation, same from the opponent, to grant that decision timeout thing. I probably wouldn't ever oppose that, because you're using your clock. If I'm really in a tight time frame. I think I bumped this up to 6 for whatever that might help, just because these are high-level games. There's a lot of big-time decisions that can switch the matchup. Battle deployment's out, really strong card. And Paul deploys Cleanse of the Occupation. I know when we were prepping for this, we all kind of said, make sure you have a plan for deal, because we know that Timo's played it a lot, Silvergun's played it a lot, and there might be one other player on Team Europe. Who am I thinking of that's played this deal a lot? I'm going to see Miguel play it a couple times. But Crypto, I've seen him used to play Entanglement, so I could see him totally playing it. So it's all said, make sure we have a plan for it. I'm not sure to what extent Bastion and Team Europe said, make sure we have a plan. Because at this deck, if you don't kind of have some counters, and that occupation damage is pretty brutal. But there's a lot of good utility cards that the design has put out that aren't useless against, as Bastion's going to look for 3PO, definitely a staple in the Legend decks that I've seen Bastion play. But yeah, Escape Pod Combo, which was recently errated to get even stronger to deal with You'll Be Dead, Free Ride, and Endure Celebration V, deals with Undercover Spies, also deals with Occupation. It could be worse, helps with it. Non-combo We're Doomed can cut the damage, although probably not going to see that. Although maybe with 3PO out. Homer Outcutter game, yeah. One sec. Yeah, so that's a quick plug. Hollow Theater, the guest is going to be Timo. I think Dan, and they're both in the chat, they're going to be filming an interview ahead of time. But then I think they might be streaming the game. It might be too late for Timo, but maybe he'll do it when Dan does. So Paul's going to get a verify here with Luke looking for Force Projection. Bastion's got 13 cards in hand. Paul only has 5. Paul is on 4 best win locations here, and he has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage queued up for next turn, which Bastion presumably have some answer for, or is going to need to answer for. You can't just let 7 damage sit and plan to win the game, really. So he'll have to disrupt. I would really be shocked if he doesn't try to disrupt Paul on Bespin in some capacity. So Bastion's going to get the interior sight out, the Maz's Castle Antechamber. Yeah, Free Ride Combo V is really good against this deck. I know when it came out, since Paul has played this deck a lot, I think he made some comments, kind of felt like with the Goldenrod errata to get stronger against this deck and the Free Ride Combo V, I think he made some comments like, jokingly, like, oh, this line doesn't want me winning, because he's had a lot of success with this deck, which actually brings me to one of my talking points. I had to prep some talking points here because I know Paul's not the fastest player, so I'm like, if there's any dead air here, I'm going to be prepared to fill it, which actually reminds me we'll give out some prizes. But real quick, an interesting thing about these two players is Paul's actually had a lot of success for his Bastion. Of course, depends on the matchup sometimes, but in the OCS last year, 2020, or I guess that's 2 years ago at this point, which plug OCS 2020 starts in a couple weeks, sign up, go to the website, there's an article on it. But the 2020 OCS, Paul was 4-0 versus Bastion. In the 2021 OCS, Paul was 2-1 against Bastion. 2020 Worlds, Day 2, Bastion beat Paul. And then 2020 Worlds, Day 3, Paul knocked Bastion out in the quarterfinals and then lost in the semifinals to Kieran, who then went on to lose to Joe in the finals. But that was interesting because I know Bastion had some crazy, like, Bespin floating refinery deck, and he drew Paul's Diplo deck, which was, like, the one bad matchup for him. But yeah, so Paul's actually had a lot of success for Bastion. Me personally, I played Bastion in this event and lost as Prophet for Shadow Collective. I looked it up. I think I'm now 1-6 versus Bastion in basically any game that's actually mattered that is open format. The only time I ever beat him, ironically, I was playing Imperial Entanglements, which I've barely ever played, and he was playing Agents in the Court. And I remember I watched the replay, and I was like, man, that Battle Deployment is such a strong card, and that's why I kind of got kicked out of Entanglements. Because it just does so many things, but General Leia, of course, suspends it. But to just get your combat vehicles out, to cap the immunity, or cap Battle Destiny is huge. So Bastion's going to play all wings here to grab a card. I think I went on like 7 different tangents there, but yeah, so wonder if Bastion's going to, let's see, it's his draw phase, so he's not going to attack this turn. He's going to play the spin. He obviously knows what's in there because he verified his reserve deck early in the turn. Presumably going to get the Falcon here. I don't see there's anything in the chat. Ability 1, Battle over Bespin. Yeah, so as Justin said in the chat, I know he tested a lot with Paul to try to figure out the optimal angle on this, and Legend did really well. And like I said, way back during the show that drew the matchups, Bastion said something about his build isn't ideal for this deck. So we'll see. And Bastion's now at 18 cards in his hand. Paul's got all this damage queued up. Bastion's got to have some like Escape Pod combo, or it could be worse, or Free Ride combo in that huge hand of 18 cards. If not, he's probably very, very frustrated that he has to keep drawing to find it. But I would be very shocked if Paul gets all 7 damage through this turn. But yeah, as I was also saying, this is really, really neat that the Outrider Cup is going to come down to the last matchup, really. If Paul wins this, then it'll be on Silverglen to try to force a playoff. And vice versa, it'll be on Joe to force, if Bastion wins, it'll be on Joe to force the playoff, which then will be captain's pick. That's probably not going to happen this weekend. I know Joe's going to the NPC. He's got a long way to fly. And whoever, some other people, like I know Justin might be going to the NPC. We'll have to have some pretty big time coverage on the final for this, because that'll be really good. It's going to be a match. I think that the decks can be refreshed. I'm sure they'll be locked in for the match. So, again, you don't make it crazy for if someone wins game 1 by 21, then they change their decks. It won't be like that. It'll definitely be a lock the decks in. Yeah, Jakku was blown away. Sorry about that, guys. Hopefully that's the only thing, and hopefully people can deduce what that card is since a Brave Resistance is out. And yeah, so Bastion is going to play Escape Pod combo, gets grabbed. I know Paul and anybody else who's played, Imperial Entanglements / this deal hybrid deck plays 2 grabbers. One for the escape pod combo, maybe another for the free ride combo, which is a used interrupt, or like it could be worse. Bastion tosses, sorry about the mess combo. And Paul's going to get through 4 drains of 1 here. Bastion's going to toss Clash of Sabers, probably not too helpful in this matchup with everyone hiding for Darkside within vehicles. Paul's going to play Come Here, Be a Coward, doesn't want Bastion to lose something crucial and then immediately retrieve it with Wackling. Yeah, Ozzel and Piet are on Executor, so that's 11 forfeit. So it's not the craziest thing in the world to have like Falcon, Ray, Solo, spin for a 6, draw 5, +1 from Ray. You have 12 Battle Destiny, you knock off both pilots, and the Executor's only immune less than 5. So that would be like a recipe for knocking the Executor out of space. Of course, there's probably some counters. Like even a command, a spin would get through the Imperial command. But, maybe like a barrier might be an out for Paul there. I'm not positive Paul's running them. Yeah, you wouldn't... I don't think you would play Be With Me and force yourself into starting Jakku if not for Jedi Ray. If he's playing Clash, I imagine he's probably got Anakin Saber. Which means, again, he's probably playing Jedi Ray. All the bonuses for Bring Back the Balance, Feel the Force, and Ray Will Be With You are all for just V14, aka Jedi Ray. Paul's going to get another occupation, presumably he just did deploy it. Or, yeah, he did deploy it. Am I behind here? Sebastian's got 16 cards in hand. Paul only has 6. Again, another kind of a trademark of this Entanglements deal hybrid deck is that I feel like it is usually hand-starved. Because you're just constantly getting stuff thrown on the table, and trying to get set up as soon as possible. Obviously, this is turn 3 for Paul, and he was threatening 7 damage there. He needs the Leia shuttle, no Destiny Adder. Oh yeah. I just played out that whole scenario with OG Ray, as we'll say. But yeah, if Solo and like Poe, for example. Probably not going to want to put Chewie in space, especially with all these walkers. You probably want him on the ground to shoot, but of course he could be trampled. Moff Gideon gets downloaded with Blizzard 4. Barracks, Solo, Jedi Ray's only 1 battle. Yeah, Poe and Solo, that was my bad, to kind of reference and anticipate ability for Ray. Here comes more fodder for Chirnu, who's going to add 1 to the brain here. I would think this seems to be going pretty well for Paul. Because he's fortifying, he's got all these different ATSDs that can react, 2 of which can react for free. So like there's only so many react cancelers that Bastion could have. And he just, like I said, he has to disrupt. Paul, he can't let this now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage come through. Maybe he's got another way to stifle occupation damage, and Paul doesn't have another grabber out. He probably really wants to have like the something special V. But yeah, so I would think this is going pretty good for Paul. He hasn't been disrupted at all through his 3rd turn. And one of the good things for Legend is they could, he could just kind of like vomit a bunch of stuff on the table, and like he can go Falcon with somebody to Jakku, that's a drain of 2. He can go Rose, BB-8, somebody at the antechamber, which is at a retrieve 1, a ping 1, a drain 1. Maybe have like the female interrupt I can handle myself to make that a drain 2 sometimes. He could loop it with 3PO perhaps. He could get some decent damage and retrieval, but given everything, I don't think he can race right now. He's got to disrupt. Big question will be if he has like Leia's blaster rifle. Again, for like the 4th time I mentioned it, Bastion's comment makes me, back saying it wasn't an ideal matchup, makes me think maybe he doesn't have something like Leia's blaster rifle. comes Force Projection. Bastion's just going to cycle that. Make 3PO defense value 5. Or I guess it actually targets the location, doesn't target a character. Oh, let me click on it. Okay. This happens 0 times in our games. Oh yeah. Sperling mentions one of my favorite characters, good old Lieutenant Tarn Myson. And that was one of the reasons I did start playing him like last year a lot, like No Idea or Legend decks against this type of deck versus Paul. And one thing, I did a stream one game where I almost beat Desai in the OCS with it, but I didn't account for every single answer to Tarn. I think he had a clutch Imperial Command, which saved him. But definitely played against Paul with the Tarn package a couple times. I think one time he's like, oh, this stuff. But yeah, if you have a second ship or a second Star Destroyer, like ISB can often play, kind of knocks it out. But Legend's a good platform for Tarn Myson because you can do the once per game pull so you can find them, or you can get like Antilles Maneuver V to pull them, and reduces that immunity. So then you fire, you reduce all the forfeit, and you get through that immune less than 5. You can take out this loaded executor. Things go right. Bastion's going to go for his once per game tunnel vision and his 18 card force pile to find something key. Yeah, that's true too, Sperling. And that'll happen a lot, or used to happen a lot in entanglements. They could start loading up ATSDs for forfeit fodder. And here we go. All right, Sebastian's going to contest. We got Poe and the Falcon. Yes, Jedi OSU, Chad. So yeah, this game obviously really important. And then we're going to see either Bastion wins and Silverland goes for the knockout to win 7-5, or Paul wins and Joe goes for the knockout 7-5, or USA and Europe split these final 2 games, and we're going to get a playoff. Finn's going to come up. Paul only has 6 cards in hand. Probably bet he's got an Imperial Command. Probably doesn't have a barrier because he probably would have used it against the Falcon. So we have Finn, Solo, Poe. The Destiny Adder Interrupt could add 2 to get this to 4 Battle Destiny. For Bastion, wondered to what extent. So Rebel Flight Suit's huge for Bastion to cancel Imperial Command if that's played. To what extent Bastion's been cycling high Destiny cards. So if he draws like 4 really high Battle Destiny, this is really interesting. Sebastian just basically, built his hand, cycled a 3PO, drew a big hand, found all the key cards he needs. And if this works out for him, I mean, it might be the game. If he wins Bespin, we're in the battle phase. This is big. Wonder if Bastion probably has the Destiny Adder. If not, he's not going to be able to get through all that forfeit, I think. And we're going to presumably see a flip here. Although, yeah, it's not like the flip. Bastion's definitely going to anticipate drawing over 12 here. He does flip. Okay, so Luke's going out of play. Gideon's 6. Shirnu's 5. Ozzel's 5. P at 6. So what is that, 22? Dude, that's going to be pretty tough. And the thing with this is, if Bastion doesn't knock out the Executor, then at some point the Executor can just run away, and then Paul can just abandon the whole occupation game, but at least he can just keep trying to get drains through on the ground and not have to pay for them for battle plan. Whereas, although Bastion will still be in pretty good shape, he's got plenty of force in hand and life force, and then maybe then he starts going to the ground and setting up the Ray BB-8 stack and all. Here comes the Destiny Adder to add 2. I'm getting pretty good at this. So now he's up to 4. If you're Bastion, do you at least play the command and force the Rebel Flight Suit once per game to be used? So this is big. And Bastion just did the peak with the objective to presumably line up some better Destiny. He moved it to the force pile, so I'm guessing that whatever he saw on both piles wasn't really high. But if the executor can survive this, that's pretty good for Paul. Ooh, BB-8, 6 and change. And a Hera, which is 3. Odin-Essor combo for 4 at 7, 13 and change. And a 5, so is that 18? So I think that'll cover. So Bastion only has to lose 5, or 3 of the 4 characters. And then Bastion is entirely immune. Why would it be all 4? 6, 6, 12. Oh, yeah. He needed... It was 18 and change, and he had somebody who was 5. Oh, wow. Yeah, just enough. Yeah, good call, Joe. I don't know why I thought 18 and change. I don't know. All right, but the ship survives, which is pretty big. Got to wonder how many other ships Bastion has. I'm sure he's got at least a couple, maybe like a Gold Leader and Gold 1, or Leia's Resistance Transport. Maybe something like a Profundity is possible. But now that Executor is pretty vulnerable. Again, Paul only has 6 cards in hand. Probably really, really has to put some extra pilots on there just to make sure, even if he runs to Jakku, he doesn't get taken out. And wouldn't be surprised either if Bastion's found a second counter card to Preoccupation. But it looked like Paul was kind of riding the trajectory, but obviously really, really well played by Bastion to get all the pieces he needed and then attack and still have lots of force face down, lots of force in his hand. Going to his draw phase, he's going to save it all. So maybe, and it could be worse here. Yeah, no command from Paul. Here comes the command. Yeah, Executor's got to run here. Doesn't have a way to cap. Doesn't have a way to cap the 2 Destiny. Yeah, good point from Joe. Of course, that solo complaint enter from Lost Pile, and it's just sitting around the top of the Lost Pile there. Here comes Thrawn. I wonder if Bastion tracked. Probably wouldn't surprise me if he tracked Hera around. Makes it a priority to find Hera. Put her on the transport, attack Thrawn on the Executor, draw enough to clear it. So Paul's got to be pretty careful. Got to wonder how many characters he can throw on the Executor to make sure it survives an attack at Jakku. It could be worse, not surprising from Bastion. That's something he can definitely cycle late game. And that's really big to, again, buy Bastion another turn. He has not taken any damage to Occupation so far. .3PO is going to cycle. And Paul's going to do 3 drains of 1 here. Yeah, good point, Berm. Yeah, if he runs away, save the command for where the flight suit is not. But I guess it is possible that Bastion has another Starfighter and all wings combo and could still try to spin through a command even at a second system, but might not be super likely. Bastion loses Were You Looking For Me, which did its job in getting 3PO out, and also loses I Think I Can Handle Myself off the top. So Silver Glen says that Occupation is needed for Paul to win. Timo correctly points out, of course, that if he does run away, then that opens up Bastion to deploying to the ground on Bespin a lot easier. But, I mean, if those are just drains of 1, I doubt he does that. He probably might just stack the antechamber and just drain for 2 at the system, do some type of BB-8 rows, some force drain at the antechamber, and then just keep chasing around the executor. Yeah, I think this looks good for Bastion right now. Paul's at, 26-32. Bastion's at 35. So Bastion's up, and Paul's got a real problem on his hands with this Falcon that's just loaded. Because, yeah, it looked good for Paul early, but of course, Bastion didn't attack too early. Mitri had all his pieces. Wouldn't have shocked me if he had like a barrier canceller in that hand as well, just to make sure the barrier didn't ruin the whole plan. And yeah, Paul is now going to seed the system, move on the ground. Paul's going to draw some cards. But yeah, this doesn't look great for him right now. All right, so I'll do a giveaway here. All right, so I'll just ask the question verbally. Bastion did he called it the Jedi Temple Training or Jedi Academy Training Series about a year or so ago. What objective did he use? Actually, he used 2. What objectives did he use to talk about that with? So he did like a training tutorial for new and returning players, and he used 1 objective to talk about. And then he used 2 actually. So if you can name either of those, I'll wait for. People can put a couple entries in, and I'll let you know who's right. But keep submitting. I won't say who. Oh well, actually, I take that back. Looks like Andy already got it. Prophet and Shadow. Yeah, Prophet and Shadow are correct. So Bastion's going to do the peak. So let me write that down. Congratulations, Andy. I like your new YouTube series as well. Everyone check that out. He's got a post in the forums about it. The Masasi Temple series. So 3PO is going to cycle. Sorry, Joe. But yeah, that's a pretty cool training series. I hope Bastion does some more. But yeah, he definitely, I think, he was a fan, as we have a drain of 2 here. It's going to be an extra ping on top of it. I think Bastion really liked and was intrigued by Shadow Collective from the start. And he's played it a lot. Played it in the OCS. Obviously played it against me, just in the Outrider Cup, and has played it in he played it in like the OCS playoffs, for example, so he knows that deck very, very well. I would say he's he's got a handful of decks that he's the guru or the sensei or the master of, including, of course, the Brangus Glee is his signature old school deck, but I would say Shadow is kind of his baby too. All right, so Tarkin's Bounty gets lost off the top. They must never again leave the city. He's lost from hand to the drain, as well as, if I can scroll, I'm locked here. Another never again. Here comes Leia, so he's probably just going to set up here with Leia, BB-8, and Rose to start retrieving and get himself into a situation where he can just outrace Paul. Did he do a Legend Blaster deck too? Timo? I thought he did a Prophet and a Shadow. But yeah, hopefully he does some more soon. Those are on the YouTube channel if anyone's interested. I think, I know they were very, very well watched. Among the most viewed videos on the PC YouTube channel. And here comes BB-8, of course, so the three amigos, whatever you want to say. The trio of Leia, Rose, and BB-8 can get you retrieve, get you ping, and obviously have a pretty good character in Leia who can use with leadership. 3PO hanging out as well. Yeah, Archmage, or Aaron Kingery, I know, played that Legend Blaster deck a lot. I wonder if he's playing it again now that Legend got a boost. I think Joe just played him in the Gem PC. But I know he's supposed to be going to the MPC too, so Aaron's a good guy. Team Albany, I think, is planning to bring 5 with Seatwig and Matt Sokol and Dan Boyce. And a couple of those guys are in Jersey now, so a little closer than driving down from Albany. But yeah, Sebastian's going to draw a couple cards here, 21 to 20 in Life Force. Bastion's up 1 in hand size as well. So he's up a couple, and he probably really likes this board state of 1, 2, ping 3, BB8 4, drain 5, another ping 6, retrieve 1. So we'll call it 7, and Paul's doing 5. Oh, this is weird. So he drains at this, blown away Jakku, and there's a 2 over here for remaining force loss on Bestman. That's funny. Bastion loses a Hujix off the top and a Vice Admiral Holdo off his reserve. So yeah, like if this just stays the way it is, Bastion's gonna win. Right? What did I just say? 7 a turn versus 5. Obviously, Bastion's getting a little bit of a head start in here, but at some point, Bastion can just move in front of the Executor, block that drain to 2, and then that changes it because Paul probably doesn't want to. And of course, here comes it could be worse for the 1, knowing it won't be grabbed because Paul doesn't have an available grabber out. A game-breaking Omnibox at worst would be huge. I played Baroni. Baroni was playing this deck. This deal I was playing Prophet, and he was about to hit me with an Omnibox. I think this was last year I think it was the OCS. And I had a sense, luckily, for the Omnibox, its worst combo, or else I would have lost that game really badly. So Paul's going to get these drains through. Yeah, you gotta wonder, like, decks like Carbon Chamber testing freezing, which was popular a couple years ago with like a mains and IG88. Or would that deck? Yeah, that deck would usually freeze. That was like relatively protected. Came out of that. That deck, or like Entanglements, or this deck where they have this, or it could be worse, is a real problem. I'm sure that Omnibox, its worst, is probably in that 65 to 75th card range. Against stuff like EBO or Watch Your Step, that'll usually play It's a Hit. It's a little less potent because it'll probably get canceled if you're not smart with when you play the Omnibox. It's worse. And Bastion loses the site, Luke's Hut, the Agents of Black Sun site off the top. So we had the Hujix floating, well, unless maybe he's just been cycling stuff too. And outcomes, this is an interesting thing that Paul has in his deck. He's got a U3PO. So this now takes 2 damage away from Bastion. Of course, Bastion can keep cycling. It could be worse, but I guess you could use it on the drain at 2. But that's pretty big. But you got to think that Bastion's got some type of undercover spy protection in the deck. Yeah, Legend's kind of the master of just doom stack 2 locations. And it can be really potent with ground space. You're doing pings, you're doing drains. You're 2 types of pings, the objective ping, the BB-8 ping. You retrieve with Rose. If you do attack them, they can then battle back with presumably General Leia turning on some retrieval. Okay, thanks, Joe. Yeah, that ping is only once per turn. So he wouldn't get that in addition. When you have 2 unique resistance characters once per turn if you just force drain. So I know one of the things that talking with Chris Kelly, he said that one of that was supposed to help with the hunt down matchup a little bit. Because especially when they made the change to Legend to not only allow you to have 1 Jedi on the table at once. So you're kind of a little more hamstrung against Legend or flipping back hunt down. But at least that gives Legend like this alternate direct damage. As some way to help that matchup become a little more even. So Paul's going to draw. He's now at 13 cards. Maybe digging, trying to find some outs, some things to help him here. Maybe something to protect U3PO. Yeah, and that's a good point, Joe, that we haven't even seen Rey yet. Like, Jedi Rey's got to be in Bastion's hand. Or, if not, he's going to 3PO into her pretty soon. And then she's going to get more retrieval. Yeah, do you think he has Tarkin's order in here? I guess it's to help against like mains if they try to attack you on the ground and you're controlling the system. You just cancel like the drain at the casino, for example. Yeah, probably in there. I'm pretty sure that was a card that was always in Imperial Entanglement's decks. So Paul's drawing a ton. He's at 18. He's only got 10 cards face down. Looking for something in particular. Might be like an inbound. Oh, there's no weapon there. But we'll see if Bastion has any undercover spy protection. But even without it, I think as Joe and maybe someone else in the chat just mentioned, this is still looking good for Bastion. Yeah, I like that. There's a meme on the forums in that general discussion forum thread about it's like Liam Neeson from Taken talking about U3PO. Like, I will find you, I'll hunt you down. I have very powerful allies, or whatever the whole spiel is that Liam Neeson does to say he's gonna hunt him down. But basically, it's like every game. U3PO is just he is a very, very, what's the word, everlasting card in this game. Inevitable. Was that Thanos? U3PO is inevitable. Paul's going to satisfy Blizzard 4. He's got 10 force face down. Double the hand size of Bastion. Presumably, Paul's got a lot of things in his hand that are not very helpful. It looks like Bastion, looks like he's going into the could be worse there with the 3PO. Yeah, so Joe's saying that's pretty, like, just super strong tilted matchup for Legend. I would say so. There was some good discussion on Slack about which matchups were lopsided, which ones were even, which ones were, predictable but might be close. I think maybe the most overwhelming one was the map OA one with MHT and Miguel. I think the Brigham one, I watched most of that game. I think that was really strong in favor of USA with Brigham. So you have a drain 2 at Bespin. I know a lot of people thought that Shadow was favored over Prophet. Joe said no. I had on my side a gift, not having any counters from Bastion for a gift. But obviously Bastion's a much better player than me. But that game, some mixed opinions on that matchup. As Paul loses another Never Again and a Blizzard 4 from hand. So he's got probably a lot of things he could just chuck from hand. Yeah, good point, Kieran. The flight suit really swung this game because Paul definitely had the command in hand, but all it was going to do was just go to the lost pile. But that allowed the 4 Destiny, which then completely eliminated all of the Executors, pilots, and really just totally flipped the script of this game. And, give Bastion credit, of course. He was very patient. He again accumulated all the pieces he needed for that Super Falcon. Yeah, I'm starting to really get to the camp of I'm just going to put Grimtosh and Monarch in every competitive deck I ever play. Because there's so many times you're playing someone who's really good, and they're just like, you know what, I'm going to take the line and just draw a ton. Now, I did that once over to Johnny Chu, and he just grabbed it and then drew right up again, and it really didn't change it a lot. But if it's well timed, it can really, really be big. And if you use it used or lost correctly, which basically I've learned used is way better, like way better, except against Chris Kelly. But now there's a shield for that, of course. So Imperial Decree V gets tossed. Rose is going to retrieve a card. Yeah, my thing with the Prophet Shadow Collective thing is I never want to just put all my chips in freeing Han because I don't want to put all my good strong characters on Tatooine just to have them come down with some random person, shoot Han, and just even if that just sets me back one turn, if not alone like a couple turns, because I have a couple ways to get him back. Then my guys are all stuck on Tatooine. I can't do any damage, and like I'd rather almost just try to take over a dark side site to just at least get damage through, and then kind of adapt the game plan from there. As long as the gift is limiting Shadow's damage. But of course, you don't get the use pile pulls if I'm putting my mains elsewhere. But accounting for all the different counterplay, like stunning leaders and barriers and stuff like that, that's where I'm always kind of hesitant and careful when I play Prophet, not to get stuck in a counter beat, as we see Jedi Ray come out. Sorry for going on a tangent there. But Bastion's going to retrieve Luke's hut. Looks like I'm a little behind. My thing is locked here. Let me scroll down. Just back one. Yeah, thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I definitely played it lost and against you in the NPC when there was like no upside, and there was a ton of upside in playing it used. But yeah, you say I can finally share. So what? I had one giveaway. Let me do another giveaway here. Actually, see, I'm not sure what exactly I'll give away, but I'll definitely do another AI pack at the very least. Bastion's going to draw a few. Let's see. We'll just do some random questions. So, name the dates for the 2022 Endor Grand Prix. Give me one of the dates that the event is going to happen over. The 2022 Endor Grand Prix is happening on which dates this year? Okay. Looks like Turner's first in, so Turner will get it. Let me update my notes. Okay. And actually, I'll get the second person too. Who was it, Dan? Dan, you keep winning all these things. I'll get it to Berm. I'll get you something, Dan, don't worry. As we have Imperial Command, Bastion's going to grab it, just take the card out of the Life Force at the very least. Yeah, so. Well, so this isn't looking too great for, whoops. For Paul here, he's got a pretty big hand, but it doesn't look like he's got a lot of outs with Jedi Ray and all the benefits that she gets. Yeah. Yeah, coming in for a landing here with this matchup. Bastion's just content on the trajectory here. Bastion's, he can just keep cycling. It could be worse for that one drain of 2, which is Paul's best output damage here. Joe posted a meme. Do I want to see this or I just get upset? Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, so they could be worse. Yeah, that's an interesting point, Charlie. Maybe do the sand. Because then at least they can only get to 2 destiny. Alright, so Paul's just getting his damage through here, but I don't really see a way how he's going to pull ahead. Yeah, this doesn't look good for Paul. So it seems like the determining matchup, whether it'll be a Europe win or a go to tiebreak, will be between Joe and Silverglen at 5 p.m., which again is about 3 hours from now. So no pressure, Joe. Let's see if you could save America from the defeat, or if we can kind of push this out another week to have the final confrontation showdown. Yeah, that's ISB versus communing. So, of course, ISB can have a couple different variations. Usually the same, like 45 cards. It's a matter of maybe even the same 50 cards. And then communing, of course, can be Qui-Gon or Yoda. Yoda can go in a couple different directions. Yeah, so Timo chimes in at 2-0. So yeah, it sounds like in the practice for this, Legend was 5-0. So as Joe's been saying, this is a very, very lopsided matchup. And Paul's first game was against Kieran, which was Diplo versus Agents, which I personally have had trouble against Paul's Diplo style. But I know Joe, and I think Hayes, maybe it was just Joe, was definitely thought that Agents is favored heavily against Diplo. But that matchup was, Kieran had the Boba Fett Bounty Hunter in space, which was really strong. And then I think the key point of that game was when Paul battled, and then Kieran had the hidden weapons on Luke, and that just totally ended it. Very, very thoughtful game. I know both players used up a lot of time making every key decision. Yeah, especially late game, where they can just kind of move like the Space Cruiser or something to Alderaan Charlie. Paul's going to play a shield. But Paul's not giving up here. Looks like he maybe still has some tricks or something. Ooh. Wonder if he has the gun. Although that would be really hard to pull off. This is maneuver 6 with Solo on. And Legend can redraw it. So I think if he's got like a 5/5 stacked and plays the SFS cannon, that might be an out. Okay, so he's going to put Occupation back out, presumably move the Executor over, which has got 22 forfeit. Sebastian might be able to more forfeit here with Grand Moff Tarkin. Okay, interesting. All right, so Paul's not giving up. No giving up, General Jaja. Yeah, you got to think Bastion's probably going to run away. I don't see a lot of upside here well, of course, I mean, there's upside in that he could knock him out of space, but he's got a lot of forfeit to cut through. And Paul's probably just hoping to just survive a turn get a round of occupation damage through. But Bastion, he can keep track that it could be worse. The drain at Bespin's only 1, so this could actually be a net negative move where he's only draining for 1 instead of 2 at Jakku, and then the biggest source of damage from Paul is actually still just cut. Holdo, I was definitely lost. But who knows, probably retrieved, since Legend retrieves a lot of cards. It's Thrawn and Grand Moff Tarkin V. So that's 3 Battle Destiny there. And I guess Paul would have to draw really high in order to get rid of all 3 pilots. But, like, really high, right? He has to draw like a 14 or 15, something like that. Maybe 14. Bastion's activating here. Yeah, good point. He's probably been holding the force projection all game. If Paul does draw super duper high, that would be an out. Bastion does not activate the max. He's going to save 5. So, betting he is playing to battle here. He can afford to do the peak and line up destinies. If they're bad, he could still move them to the force pile and still draw 4 destiny. Poe adds 1. Of course, the Destiny Adder could be played from Lost from Solo to add 2. Paul tosses his second U-3PO. Yeah, Gold Leader would be really bad because then Paul can't draw any Destiny. Although Tarkin draws if unable to. I don't know how that works, if that kicks in. Even if he did, could he use the Legend objective to force a redraw and then they already did draw? That's always a weird rules interaction with Gold Leader requiring it, but then draws if unable to otherwise. Like, I'm not sure what wins out there. Yeah, Flight Suit has never been used. Bastion's gonna get some cards back, or get a card back, or 2 cards back? He still doesn't use a Walkling yet. Oh yeah, he Jedi Ray, then Rose. Yeah. So yeah, where are you looking for me when out of play? He retrieved Anakin's lightsaber. Ray, of course, is like a tank here with the Be With Me objective. Bastion moves Solo from pilot to passenger. This is Hera, probably? Yep, Hera. So now he can get 5 Destiny. So maybe he wasn't even just saving 5 for the line up a Destiny, or he could even do that and then just spin for 1 and still draw 5 total. It's I think Bastion's just going for the punch out here in space. I shouldn't say I think. It seems very, very evident that's what's going to happen. Yeah, I don't know why he moved Solo. And then he could... Okay, yeah. Good point, Joe. Yeah, because then once he does his... quote-unquote does his job of the once per game play a card from Lost Pile, kind of like Boba Fett, for example. In Carbon Chamber testing, Boba Fett V, you use him, you put the gun on him, you move him, you transfer the gun to IGD8. If once he uses that exchange a card in reserve deck for a battle, he's kind of just fodder, really, for the rest of the game. So a similar situation that once Solo uses his really good text, here's going to be retrieval from General Leia with the Resistance character initiating a battle. Paul's going to play Sneak Attack. Again, this is where Legend is really strong. So even if Paul puts a really high Destiny here, can't Paul just... or Bastion can just cause a redraw with the objective, right? He's got 2 Resistance characters. Here comes the Destiny Adder. The Adder, as some people just call it. Where Finn is in a battle with Poe or Ray, and you get 2 Battle Destiny. Paul's going to get 3 Destiny as well, but this seems bad for Paul, unfortunately, for Team USA. We got a 5, a 3, 4. That could be worse, which I'm sure. I shouldn't say I'm sure. Bastion obviously knows what that is. Draw it if he needs to. Here comes Jin for a 2. So not incredibly high. 8, 12, 14. Maybe he's got a Jedi Lev. Yep, there's a Jedi Lev. Itation. V. And a 5 for Rose. He still gets 1 more, right? Yep. 6. R2, Brave Little Droid. Nice inclusion. I like that card. Always good drawing Destiny 6s, right, Chris Kelly? And he cancels a Destiny in space, but he's not cheap. He's deploy 4. Paul's going to draw a 6, which is definitely going to get redrawn. Yep. And then we have a 2 with Sergeant Barrack. Yeah, no, if it's an Executor 4 for 15, like, the little tie is going to survive. And that has hyperspeed of at least 2, right? So you can run away. 4. Maybe, oh, well, Bastion can't, yeah, as Bill was saying, he's weighing whether to do the redraw or the force projection, because he can't do both now that he has none in his lost pile. But 23 attrition. And Bastion still has 2 cards left to work with for like move phase or draw. But maybe Paul. Why is Paul doing that? Takes the tie into hand. He's going to lose it all. Lose occupation. Why wouldn't he just... I mean, obviously, I don't think he's going to win no matter what, but... Yeah, I don't know what Paul was doing there. He just got his forfeits crossed up. But man, like, the SFS cannons would be awesome if he could knock him out of space, but that doesn't tilt it. He's still too far behind. But yeah, just a reminder again, so a couple hours, Dan and Timo maybe, or maybe someone else will have the call of game number 12 of the Outrider Cup. Joe's Communing versus Silver Glen's ISB, and that, in all likelihood, will determine if we're going to a playoff or if Team Europe will win. Paul forgot he could leave the tie, just thought he cracked the 2 dudes in tie. So yeah. So there's going to be no damage here from Paul. Verify. I know he drew. Is Battle Deployment the bottom card of his use pile from the end of last turn? And then isn't it Barrack? I think even if he has the guns, which I don't think he does, if he draws the 6, it just gets redrawn. Going for a beatdown on Jedi Ray. I don't think that's going to work. Maybe 2 Battle Destiny here. He puts him with Barrack, and then... Well, then you... That's not ideal. 2 doesn't eye roll. Eye roll adds with Barrack, right? No, I'm thinking of Dre Lawson is who I'm thinking of. Yeah, Justin Desai beat Miguel. That was played like an hour and a half before scheduled, which totally understandable. Got lots of things to juggle. And they just had to get it in at 12:20. They kicked off, so they played, and Justin won. Here comes resistance. The Onyx ties at Jakku. Paul's not giving up. No giving up. Here comes Tepiscat 3. I mean, I don't think he's going to be away. If he draws the 6, he really needs Bastion to draw something low to do any type of overflow. Hujix was top decked a while ago. I'm not sure if it was retrieved. I don't think so, but Ray adds 1 to each of her battle destinies because of Be With Me. Power forfeit +1, so she covers 9. Battle destiny makes it 1, so let's say she's starting at like 10. Paul's going to do sneak attack, and Bastion's going to play the I think I can handle myself to add 1 destiny to power and make her fully immune. And he still has projection. Yeah, so this is not good for Paul. He's going to draw the 6 for total power. Yeah. Paul played sneak attack to put a sneak attack on top. Did I read that right? Or no, maybe he drew something else first, didn't he? Oh, he did it to play a battle destiny. Oh, okay. Well, that's not going to work for Ray. Oh, right? Oh, no. Let's see. Characters may not add about destiny draws. So the interrupt, I guess, added the draw. So yeah, he obviously still getting 2, as Jump is correctly allowing. Yeah. Bastion's just debating if he's going to play projection. Probably knows what's on top, isn't it? I want to say it has a 5. Is it Rose? Was that who was drawn before R2 Brave Little Droid last turn? Oh no, they can't redraw. You need two resistance characters. He draws a 5. So maybe Bastion was anticipating. Now let me see what the second destiny is before I play the force projection. Maybe he doesn't feel like he needs to play it. Ray still gets another battle destiny. If it's a 5, it's a 6. He could. She's not fully immune, so Ray's gonna go to the lost pile here. Oh, never mind. She is fully immune. He could peel 4 because of the interrupt. Right. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess Bastion's debating whether to peel 4. And he's just going to lose Ray. Probably has another one. Maybe 2 floating around. Paul's got 1 force left, which presumably he'll save for Blizzard 4. Blizzard 4's maintenance. And Bastion's going to do, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage and retrieve 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 4 and retrieve 1. Whereas Paul's threatening 5 damage, but wouldn't be shocking at all if Bastion moves in front of the tie to stop the drain at 2. No reacts now. Ooh, yeah, isn't Tempest got 6 of free react also? Yeah, so time doesn't seem to be an issue. Paul's down about 2.5 minutes versus Bastion. Bastion's about to start his 8th turn here, or 7th turn. Paul will play the maintenance. Paul's at 4-16 versus Bastion, who's got 27. So he's up a lot and basically even on damage. So this looks to favor Bastion, of course, as it has for most of the game here. We got a 3PO cycle. Bastion's going to activate here. Drains for 2 at Bespin. Paul's going to lose Sneak Attack V. Another, never again. It's got to be the 5th one. I feel like he's lost a bunch of them. Bray's going to retrieve a card. Which is Ray, which he could presumably track around. 3PO, draw, put her back out somewhere if he needs to. It'd be a couple turns there, but yeah. Coming down the home stretch here. Yeah, here comes Lay's Resistance Transport. Probably going to knock Paul out of space here. Oh, Ray's back down as well. And Ray, of course, to play -1 because light side controls Bespin. Yeah, U3PO blocking a drain of 1 and preventing the ping. Well, not preventing the ping because that's happening already. And here comes Tempest Scout 6 as a react. And Tempest Scout 1. Bastion's going to cancel that with the Odin Nestler combo. Very possible here Bastion draws a 5, which would eliminate both of these combat vehicles. Yep. Settling all family business here. Looks like he's gonna. Well, what's the plan here for Leia's transport? Even power. Force projection to subtract. And he draws us 6 to subtract from Battle Destiny, so Bastion's not going to lose anything here at all. Total Force Destiny 0. And battle ends, and Ray is still standing. Now Ray's going to move over and maybe take out another ATSD. And Bastion's going to draw some more cards, and his cards face down seem to grow between General Leia and Rose, and probably with Bray. Paul's going to do 1 damage here in Force Drain. Wonder to what extent Paul is going to drag this out. But who knows? Maybe he's got some tricks still. Trample. What's Paul doing? Just cycling a card? Okay. All right. So that is the match. It's a good game to both players. Bastion wins. Defeats Paul Myers. Now 6-5 for Team Europe. And yeah, we're going to have a big finale for Game 12, whether Team Europe can win or if Team USA can force the playoffs. So thanks to everyone for joining the chat, correcting me when I'm wrong, giving me some suggestions and insights. Hopefully you all enjoyed the stream. This will go on the YouTube channel, as all these streams have. And yeah, it should be an exciting finish tune back in twitch.tv/swccgpc in a couple hours for the final game, which Dan will be streaming. Yeah, all right, everyone take care. Hollow Theater tonight as well at 9. Lots of good stuff going on. So thanks to everyone for watching, and take care, stay safe. All right, bye everyone.